today's list, I thought this would be a fun list to do. We're going to count down the top 20 worst games on BGG. So what I did was I went to the end of the list that you probably never on, of all the games. And I looked at what was rated worst. And I kept going up the list until I found a game that was pretty good. Now, we're not going to talk about great games. They're not going to be fantastic games. It may not even be games I recommend. But this is going to be a game that we're going to start with and just talk about some games that maybe you may have missed out on or may scratch an itch, and games that I thought were rated much lower than they should be. And we're going to start at the back end of this. So our first game is rated 19,709, and it is World War Z. This is a board game based on the IP of the movie World War Z, not the book. This is going to be one with Brad Pitt, although you will not find Brad Pitt in this game. This is a zombie game about world destruction of the zombies, and you're putting it out over the world. The components were a huge letdown in this game. This game just kind of looked really ugly. It had that black look to it. It was a cheap cash-in. And quite frankly, at the time, like Diplomacy of the Dead, Zombicide games, they were just games that looked better than this and played a little bit better. But this game should no way be rated this low. It's the lowest one on our list. Next on our list is 19,698. It is the Hunger Game District 12 strategy game. This is a board game based on the Hunger Games. And already we're starting to see a little bit of a pattern here. We're seeing IP games that aren't rated that well. This was actually a little bit of a IP game that I enjoyed. We do like the Hunger Games around here. We enjoyed the franchise, believe it or not. It was something that we actually did enjoy. And this one was probably not the best game in the world, but by no means on planet Earth should it be this low about getting the resources and making things stay relevant in the different districts. And you can play as Katniss and Peeta and etc. in this one. So this one is one that should not be this low. This is actually one that I kind of recommend for Hunger Game fans. It's not as terrible as it looks here. At 19,669 is Headbands. This is just crazy to me. Headbands is a really fun party/family game. This is where you'll have something on your head, like we play the Disney version, so you might have like Sully there, and everybody knows who you are except for you, and basically you ask about 20 questions or so, trying to narrow it down who you are. It's a variant of like Guess Who or something like that, I suppose. But you have it up here, only you can see it, and everybody else can. You'll say, hey, is it a human or a monster? Is it an animal? You can only ask yes or no questions as you try to narrow it down, and at some point you're going to get points for doing that. And really, this is more like a really fun activity to play. I see people use cell phones and do this, but Headbands is a great game. On no way on planet Green Earth should it be this low. Headbands is a really fun game, party game, family game, one I can easily recommend to you. Headbands. 19,641, we find Crossfire. Oh my gosh, if you were a boy in the 80s or you watched TBS Superstation, I remember watching WCW Wrestling, and this commercial was on all the time. Crossfire. This is a really fun game. I mean, sure, with the marbles going everywhere. And this was just re-released at Toys R Us right before they went out of business. It's a fantastic game. I can't believe it is rated so low. Sure, it's not going to blow your mind, but I mean, when me and my son play this game, it is fun. Kids come over, they see it, they immediately attracted to it. This is surprising because of the nostalgia factor. It's a kid's game. I am surprised this one's so low. Crossfire is great. Track down a copy of it. At 19,524 is Clue Jr., The Case of the Missing Cake. And this is a game that I actually really like. Sure, it's a simple kids game, and maybe that's why it's so low. Maybe because it has the Clue name on it. But I felt like this was better than the original Clue. It didn't have that roll and move kind of mess to it. I liked this one quite a bit. It moved fairly quickly, had great components, and it was a kid's game. I don't understand why this one is so low. And I'm getting that on a lot of these. I can't believe these are some of the lowest games ever on Board Game Geek. This is a fantastic little children's game. One I highly recommend for your kid. Excellent, excellent game. Next at 19,251, we had Bedpans and Broomsticks. I understand why this one is so low, okay? It's not a great game. It's a hidden movement game, and it's okay. And the theme is going to be off-putting to some. So I think some people may have rated this low based on the theme of these old people that are in like this nursing facility, and they have maybe dementia or something, and they're moving around. It's kind of played for laughs, and that can be a little tasteless for some people, especially if your grandmother, like mine has lived in a nursing home. And I tend to roll with humor like that a little bit more than some people, but I can understand that probably knocks it down a point or two just right there. The game is okay. There's a lot of pieces. The components are good. Should it be this low? Probably not. It wouldn't be one that would say, hey, you need to check this out or anything. But I think if the humor appeals to you, it'll go up in your book. So, a little surprised it's quite this low, let's be honest. At 19,211, we have Sin City, the board game. Now, this game was a mass market board game with some great components. Looks just fantastic. And at the end of the day, you're kind of moving tokens around to get them into positions that you want them to be in. But they actually went the extra mile with this mass market game. This could have been like a trivia game or a roll and move. They didn't do any of this. It's kind of a unique game. It's definitely not this bad. Now, it isn't something I think you need to track down, or if you're not a fan of Sin City, I don't know if it'll appeal to you very much. But for Sin City fans, you got a legitimate board game with something going on here with very good pewter components. I mean, they really went all out for this. I would have liked some of the artwork not to repeat as much, but I mean, we're talking about the worst of the worst? No, this is probably one of the best of the worst. This is a decent little game I think a lot of people could have fun with some luck. Sure, it's a mass market type game, but wow, when you compare this to mass market games, it in no way, shape, or form should be this low. At 19,206, you have Alibaba. Once again, we're looking at another children's game. This is actually a pretty fun one where you have these dials that you're kind of moving and you're trying to match up the different things, and you kind of have to remember how far away or how many clicks that it'll be on the dial. I thought this was a really fun children's game. When I reviewed this, I gave it a 7 for a children's game. I thought it was really, really cute. It has like this toy factor to it, I think, and it has the Alibaba theme attached to it, which is fine, and kind of looking for these treasures, but wow! This is really a game that if you had a child, I would say I highly recommend this game. I don't know if it's just low because, I don't know. Is it a kid's game that's just rated low? But this is a really fun little game. Parents and adults will figure it out pretty quickly and be able to do a lot better than the kids. But, I mean, it's a kid's game. And it's not a roll and move. It gave you something a little bit different. And it's got that memory effect and where you're trying to go. I like this one quite a bit. It has a variable setup. This is the excellent little children's game. No idea why it's this low. At 18,891, we have Duel Betwixt Us. This was a Kickstarter, wacky fighting game. So you have these miners you can use to get, copper, silver, and gold, if I remember correctly. And based on how much of those that you have, you can spin it to upgrade your cards. And basically having a wacky fight. Like you slap somebody with a fish or open up an umbrella on them. This kind of wacky stuff. And it's not a great game, but it has this one-on-one fighting with this resource management that's kind of go on to it. It's fine to take that game. It's a fighting game. One of the worst games of all time? I don't think so. One of the best games of all time? Absolutely not. There are much better one-on-one fighting games, but why this one was rated so low is beyond me. It's not that terrible of a game. And actually, the mechanic in it of how you're using those miners to get the copper and silver and stuff, I like that. That's very strong and could be put in, and unless take that type of game, I think that could be a very successful mechanism. So no way it should be rated this low. At 18,665, we have Kitty Chaos. Now, I didn't rate Kitty Chaos that high. I mean, it's a game I got because my daughter is really in love with cats, but is it one of the worst games of all time? No. So it's a race to get to the top of the board, and you play these cards, and you can have Super Cat where you're invincible, you can jump fences, run through houses, and basically cause chaos as you're going through. It's an okay game. It's not fantastic, and it's not as good as some of the games I've already pointed out on this list, but is it in the bottom games of all time? Absolutely not. I think it can be actually quite fun for a family as you're racing through. They like the animals and the shortcuts that you can take. It's got some take that into it, sure. And having the right card is better than not having the right card. That's always going to be the case with the game. But it's not the worst game I've ever played, and it should never be this slowed down. Is it the best game in the world? Absolutely not. Is it anything innovative? No. Does it have cats? Sure. But it should not be this low. Okay, so that's what I would call the top 10 worst games that aren't that bad. Maybe I should call it the top 10 best of the worst games. Perhaps. But these are the top worst games that I saw that should not have been rated that low. I went from the back and started going down until I found a game that should not have been where it's at, that I felt was a decent game, and I brought it to your attention. There are some hidden gems in here. There's some IP games in here, some things that you enjoy. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, please like and subscribe. It really helps out. And thanks for helping out the channel, and thanks for watching today.